Okay, let's see my solutions on this exercise. Well, for this exercise, remember I have to create a function. This function takes a string and then it will return the same string and also appending three exclamations, right? So I want to highlight the lambda function here. This is my personal habit of reading the code. So a lambda function, it takes a string and then it returns string plus three exclamations, right? And then I'm gonna map this lambda function to spells, which is a list of strings. And after that, I have to do a cast. I have to cast the result to a list before I can really see what are the values inside. Okay, so well, let's see the second one. So for the second one, we have two lists, and we want to add them together. Well, by adding them together, there are many ways. You don't really have to use a map or a lambda function. But since we are practicing that, so let's try to use a map and a lambda function to do so. So for this one, you're going to try something similar to this function, to this map call. And then you can also try that in a different way. That is, if you want to use the zip, you can zip two sequences together and then you can try to do a lambda function. So go ahead and pause this video for now and try to code those two different versions. And in 5 seconds, I'm going to show you my solutions. Okay? Okay, so this is my first solution. My first solution is I'm using a lambda function. So for this lambda function, it takes two values, x1 and x2, and I'm returning the sum of x1 plus x2, right? And after that, I'm mapping this function to those two sequences, the list 1 and list 2. So for each time, I'm grabbing one value from list 1, one value from list 2, and then I'm adding them together. Okay, this is the first solution. And for the second solution, as I said, I'm going to try to zip the list 1 and list 2 together. And after that, what am I going to have? I'm going to have a sequence of the pairs of values. For each pair, I grab one value from list 1 and another value from list 2, right? And then I want to do a sum. So for this sum, it simply means that for any number of the numbers, I'm going to just add them all together. Of course, in our case, we have for each pair, we have two values. So the lambda function will be like this. I'm getting a pair of values in a tuple. And then I'm going to sum all the values. Well, by the way, two values. I'm going to sum those two values together into the sum. So I'm returning the sum of the pair. Okay, so for both versions, we are going to get the same thing. And that is the first part of the lambda function. We haven't finished discussing the lambda function yet, but in the rest of this lecture, I want to move on and talk about debugging. Well, probably you have been doing debugging a lot in this course. Well, this is part of the life of the data science person, and you write the code and then you find, oh boy, there's a bug, and then I have to figure out the way to find the bug and then kill the bug. And this process can be easy, or in some other cases it can be really hard and painful. And when I work with you guys in person personally, and then I would say a lot of time we also talk about how we can kill the bugs. So here are some of the general rules. And when you do the coding and you want to start small and then you run your code often, you don't have to write a big chunk of the code and then you want to run that and then you have one bug, you kill that, and then you run into another bug, and then you have to kill the bug in 20 lines of code, and there could be multiple bugs. And this process can be annoying because you have written too much code without knowing whether your code is working or not. And well, the recommendation is, well, you should run your code every time after you write down a few, like 2-3 lines of code. You want to run your code again and make sure that it is still working. And when you're figuring out the bugs, and of course you want to kill one bug at one time. And if you have a sequence of the bugs, you have to kill all of them one by one before your code can really run. This process can really be painful. Okay, and another thing I want to emphasize is when you have the error messages, and treat the error messages as your friends, because they are telling you what's wrong with the code. And for some cases, the error messages are not super helpful, but it will give you some of the hint. Well, for some cases, well, the error messages are kind of far away from what you really did wrong, but using the error messages as a hint is nothing. It's never going to be a bad thing. Well, the worst case, the worst kind of bug is that your program runs. However, it doesn't produce the right result, and this type of bug will be even hard to deal with because you don't have any hint from the error messages. Well, and when you are in the middle of the iteration, you have a bug. Well, the best thing to do is, how about you do some print? Well, this is a kind of a common trick when you have the bugs. Well, try to make use of the outprint output information to give you another hint on what's really going wrong. Okay, we are going to start from some of the really easy bugs, say the syntax errors. If you have do the print this way, this is not good because, well, the string is not closed, right? So we started from a code and then we want to finish that also with a code. But even though we have the code, is that correct? The answer is no, it's still not correct. Why? Because we are running Python 3. So for Python 3, for the print, we have to use parentheses. Okay? And then for this one, okay, this is not correct. And how about this one? Well, this one. Oops. Nope. Okay, so for this one, 3 plus 5, that is perfectly fine. And how about this 7? So this 7 will be considered as an orphan. So in this kind of syntax error cases, and well, Python will be able to give you very good hints on what's really going wrong. And also for this one, there's the open parentheses, and this open parentheses is not closed, but it will say this is unexpected end of file. Okay, so EOF is the end of file. So for this error message, it's a little bit confusing because the error is really, we have an open parenthesis, the open parenthesis is not closed. But Python tells you something kind of different. But when you look into your code, you will still be able to find that out. And here are some other easy bugs. Say if we have a list and then we want to do a list plus 2, and then Python will say, this cannot be done. Why? Because this is one operand, that is a list. Another operand is a number. So a list plus a number, and then this cannot be done in Python. It can be done in NumPy, however, right? And then the error message is also interesting. It says can only concatenate list to list. So what does this mean? Well, this means if you're doing a list plus another list, and this is called list concatenation in Python, this can be done. Okay, and then Python sees the first operand, that is a list, and then plus. So Python will assume that you are doing a list plus another list, that is for list concatenation. However, when Python checks the second operand, that is, oops, come on. And Python says, okay, that is an integer. So, well, Python will say the concatenation can only be done with one list add another list. Okay, so this is the reason. Okay, I'm going to stop this video from here, and in next video we are going to continue talking about debugging.